Hey everybody, morning. How's it going? Infinity, Leah, Eric, Helen. Don't recognize your name, Helen, but welcome to the stream. Wade, Alan, Craig, Merle, Rick, Nikki, Ted, Arturo, Brian. Welcome everybody. Amy, had to scroll the thing here. Mary, Al, Huriz, Hurizu, Huru. Sorry, not a normal East Tennessee name. John, Joseph, Francois, Svenborn, Bob, Dan, Sledge, Robert, good to see everybody. And we have the largest Opex in history. The largest Opex in history. That's pretty wild, right? To make that bold a statement, but it is, in fact, the largest in history. And let me get this pulled over here and we can talk about it and look at it. Put over here. Look at this right here. Look at this amazing $5.1 trillion. No, that's not $5.1 trillion of options. No. This is $5.1 trillion in notional options. When they talk about this, the last record was like 4.9, I think, back in December. And now here we are at the end of the half. Some people call this the quad witching because we're like the end of the, it's like the weeklies, the monthlies, the quarterlies, the half, and whatever else, the futures and the whatever, all the stuff expires today. All the stuff expires today. This is the end, essentially the end of the first half of 2024 for options. That's essentially what we have here. So we have AM settlement. And if you didn't know, there's a bunch of, if you didn't know the big folks play morning settlements, well, there you go. There's going to be like 3.1 trillion settle at the open. Like these are already not tradable. Essentially, they're going to expire at the open. That's actually most of the value on S&P 500 right there. Comes off first thing this morning, and then PM settlement, including single stock tickers, which this is where most of us play, right? Most of us. Now there is a S&P 500 PM settlement also in here, SPY in there, pretty significantly, and then non S&P 500 index options right there too. That usually is a non-existent little sliver there. So it is a significant chunk there. So we're seeing a significant chunk of options expiring out today. What does that mean? Well, so here's the deal. When we trade options, we being the market participants, market makers have to stay, the goal, and I've talked to Jack Carter about this too. The goal, he didn't trade, he was not an option market maker. He was just a regular stock market maker. But I talked to Jack Carter about this, and he said, basically, they try to stay kind of delta neutral. All right, like if you're taking a position against participants, you got to try to stay kind of neutral, so you don't care what the market really does. All right, so there's different things that they do, different positions they enter. Now, to balance out options, if somebody's selling a bunch of options, they have to be delta neutral in that position. Whatever it is that they're, like if they're going to have to deliver shares or if they're going to have to buy shares, they take the opposite kind of order to kind of to balance out that risk. So what that does is it creates what we call gamma in the market. All right, it's like this when the market's long gamma, which is basically what we are right now, it kind of suppresses all the moves in the market. Now, when we're short gamma, that means that the market makers are basically buying and selling inverse to the direction of the market. So like as the market goes higher, they're selling into it. And as the market goes lower, they're buying into it. So that's long gamma regime. All right. That's how they manage their position. Now, when we get into short gamma, that's where the market makers actually start participating in the same direction that the main traders, whether that be institutionals or retails like us, that's where they start trading in the same direction as us for their hedge. And that happens when we get into a short gamma regime. And so it's a very complicated, it's not just as simple as like I buy an option and they do XYZ. It has to do with the total positioning and stuff like that too. So what it does is when we get to a short gamma regime, it creates bigger, more volatile moves. And when we're in a long gamma regime, which we currently are, it mutes the ability of the market to move. And that's why it seems like we just grind higher and chop and don't really move very big. And in fact, yesterday I was talking about the fact that we just set like a record length of time and haven't had a 2.05% or bigger day in the market. And that's a down day. Well, that's in part because we've been long gamma for a long time off the bottom in 2022. So this creates just this, almost like a resistance. It seems like there's a hand keeping things from moving, and that's the hand of long gamma basically. So as this 5.1 trillion of notional options expire by the end of today, that's a pretty huge unclench of the market. Think about it. There's $5.1 trillion worth of value just kind of squeezing the market into like a tight, barely able to move range, right? And as this frees off, it can open up the door for a pullback. That could happen next week. It could happen. It could happen by later today as 3.1 trillion comes off here. So this is definitely something to keep in the back of your mind, that large options settlements kind of free the market up to move a little, all in the hips, as they say in Happy Gilmore, freeze it up. Gotta be liquid. So be careful out there. We could see some outsized move. And as JT prophesized, or whatever you want to call it, NVIDIA dropped back below Microsoft yesterday. Imagine that. And I did buy some NVDS shares on Tuesday. I felt like I had to, right? Like I've said that it's unlikely that NVIDIA just keeps ripping higher without a outsized correction. So put my money where my mouth is, just to show that I actually believe what I'm smoking here. And I think we'll see probably NVIDIA retrace at some point here. So this is kind of the driver for the day. I'm gonna have to wrap it up by 10 o'clock today, so we got to get hustling here. The list not very big today, funny enough. So let's jump into what's actually moving today, moving and shaking. You can see S&P, we tagged that 5,500 yesterday morning, just like I thought we would, and then, so that's a bearish engulfing candle, right? That was a kind of an inside. It's hard to say it's inside because it did push slightly higher, but that was bearish engulfing. And really, if we engulf the next day and this stuff down here with another candle, that's gonna be no bueno for continuation higher in the near term. Anyway, as always, I'm here every morning. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit the button and notifications, all that junk. And maybe the most beneficial thing is just to set an alert on your phone to come watch this thing every morning. I know that's how Kimberly does it. So set your alarm, 9:15 Eastern every morning. If you're in Central, that's 8:15. If you're in Mountain, that's 7:15. If you're in Pacific, that's 6:15. And if you're around the world, rest of the way around the world, go Google, Eastern time to whatever you're in. Hong Kong time, that's just 12 hours off. So anyway, 9:15 every morning. I go through what's moving, what's crack-a-lacking in the markets. And, well, overnight, still being soft. I did say we would go back and fill this gap on the contract rollover that's back here. I did say that, and that'll be the first line of resistance at this point. Back here, we've kind of tested into it, so we have just a bit of gap left. Let's see, grab the right box, pull it back down. We have a little bit of box left there, a little bit of gap left to fill. This tail doesn't count because it closed right there. We gapped up here, we tested down into it, didn't quite fill it. So that is left open, and despite all that, still likely to go fill that. And if we don't hold it, well, we might fold it. The roadmap line, holy guacamole, all the way down here. all the way down here at 5,000 right now. And if we get below 5,000, things might get spicy in the market. That's, yesterday I did throw out there for my crash protection folks a potential play. That play was like an XSP. You may be like, what the fudge, JT? So I talk S&P stuff all the time. Here's another S&P right here. Now, the beauty of this one over something like, you may, well, the prices are just like SPY, right? Except this is an index. All right, it's a mini S&P 500 options index right here. Now you'd be like, well, it's not liquid, blah, 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 blah. Right. It seems like it's not liquid, but it's an index. All right. It is, you can't own shares of this. Like, you can't go buy shares. What you can do is play options on this. And the options I played, like a 530 long 530 long put, and jump down to 510. That's a $20 spread. Yes. Short put. So what that does, it gives you long exposure to a drop, but it's capped at 510. So below 510, your profits are kind of capped off, and your mileage may vary on what happens at that point. All right. YMMV. I saw it as a reasonable play. I'm definitely concerned, especially when we jump down in the smaller time frames. Right here, let's go look at this. This off the high qualifies as a 5 down. Maybe like I don't see it, JT. I went through this a lot with the in-person group. All right, I went through this a lot when we were in person last week. So right here, grab the LA wave. This would be like the start point. Right there. That's basically and then there's a 5 wave inside the 3. Now, that's an ultra small micro time frame. Not as super reliable. But if we get continuation lower, it's going to be game on here. Now, what can we do from here at this point, now that we've got that in place? This so far looking corrective. We may see a pop up to this level today. Don't let it fake you out. Right there. Already getting some stuff. Amazon buy. Woo. That one's spicy. So we may see this shaping up, and this could be a bigger 1, 2, and we get the bigger 3 on down. And then 4 or 5 on out there. Be careful. That one's dangerous right there. I'm telling you. Oh, that was a closing order too. Position 0. Just throwing this out there, right? We are potentially nearing the end. The first signs of this cracking showing up in the charts here. Be careful. Be careful. Now, so to Terrence's question, that statistic that I quote about 90% lower, look, we got to go out to the daily. All right. Got to jump out to the daily. Oop. Let's just delete that. At this point, we've already been up there. We've already done all the things that I was looking for. Let's just remove these. Now, why the futures? Why not the cash? Well, we can flip over the cash in a second, but futures gave me the overnight action. Look, where did we start the week? Right there. All right. Where's the lowest low of the week? Right there. Are we at the low of the week? Are we at the low of 2 weeks? Or if the market made a low today, if we ended up on a low today and we were up here, is that the lowest low? Would you consider that a low for the week, for the month? No, I wouldn't. So the low of the week thing comes in like if we saw this candle, but we didn't close down here. We closed green, so kind of invalidated that. But 90% of the time, if we're doing like, let's see, typically when we blast down like this, we'll make a lower low. But that one didn't. So it doesn't always happen. Doesn't always happen. Doesn't always happen. It's like 90% of the time we do. At least 10% of the time we don't. So that would have to blast on down. We'd probably have to close down here, and then we'd probably see continuation next week. The market typically doesn't make a bottom for like the week, 1 to 2 week period on a Friday. It doesn't make the bottom of a correction. Now, arguably, it was already taken off. Right, we spiked down and took off, closed green, kind of negated that one. This one did kind of close out the week right there on a low. Came back, kind of retested it, but it left that low in place. So it's not every time, all right? Not every time. And right there, arguably, that wasn't really the low of a big correction. So when I talk about that, we don't usually make the low of a correction something more like this, all right? Something more than a day or two. Like just a red day or two, that doesn't really kick into play. Now, something like this, like we did back here in October, we did kind of spike a reversal right there on Friday. All right, now, it's a different story when you actually look at the cash index. A little bit different. We did make a reversal right there on Friday. Closed it out and then went ripping. But back here, all these Fridays before, we didn't tend to bottom on a Friday. Just it's a tendency for the market to not make the lowest low that sticks on a Friday. Like that one right there went down. That one right there, we went down over here. Typically, it's the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday after that Friday, but sometimes it's indicative that we're not going to stick it. So it's not every one, but it does. It works out more often than not, especially when you're in a correction, and that's kind of when it applies. So right now, not really in a correction. We're just grinding this mofo higher into the biggest Opex ever. Be careful. Now look at the cash index. Well, just kind of sitting here. Gap down slightly, sitting right below yesterday. If we bearish engulf that, watch out. All right, that would, if we got down here and closed today down here around 5,400, might get a bigger flush out next week. That'd be a cautionary tale if we bearish engulf all this. All right. I don't know what I was going to type there. I don't know. Started out with a thought in my mind, and I think I was going to NQ. So right here yesterday, saw some weakness coming in the market as we hit that 2618, tagged it right in the money, and then started pulling back. That may be the end of this move. We may do another one of these right here. Could do an echo type situation where we echo off the high, pull back to the into this area right here. That would be basically a gap fill. Everybody see it? We did the same sort of thing on ES. Let's see what we got. That high, that low. Pull it up here. Yeah, basically a gap fill. So we could see an echo of this correction that we did right back here. This thing we did late May, right? We could do an echo of what we did here in April. Could very well do an echo of that. So be careful. We're at extension highs, due for some sort of correction. We haven't really had a big correction in a while, so that's usually when the market gets complacent. That's usually when things get spicy on us. And when everybody's not expecting, like when everybody's decided that the market's not gonna drop anymore, that's usually when it does the biggest drops. I mean, look at this right here. Short interest in U.S. stocks hovering at a 2-decade low. All right. This is the recipe for big old corrections. Now look, even back here in 2020, there wasn't a lot of short interest. So shorts are getting, it's tough to be a shorter as we've gone ground higher and higher. And we did have a larger short interest back here coming into the .com or the great financial crisis, and as we came into the .com, not a huge short interest. So there you go. Keep it in mind. Keep it in mind. Moving on. Russell still just kind of chopping in that downward trend. Didn't tag the roadmap line again yesterday, but so the participation in the pullback was bigger, somewhat bigger in Q than on Russell or ES. And watch out. Watch out for a flush. Oil continuing to grind higher. I expect it to come on up, test this 83 area. If we can get through that, 83, 84, probably going to go cruising right up to this 90, 91 area. If we get through that, I do expect a pullback at some point. Like, we don't just go ripping forever straight up in oil. That's not the pattern at all. We tend to rip for a little bit, then chop, and then rip for a little bit more and chop if we're going to grind it up higher. Sometimes look, even there, we paused, push on up, pull back, push it on up to the high, and then game over, right? This one right here, push up to the roadmap line, consolidate a few days, and then push on a higher, pull back, retest, push on higher. So, and then back here, just chop, few day rip, and retrace it. Few day rip, retrace it. Few day rip. So you got to watch what cycle we're in oil. It looks like we may be starting one of these where we grind, correct, grind, correct, grind, correct, grind. We might be starting one of these. All right. So watch out for that. Don't just think we're going to go ripping higher straight up in oil. It's just not likely what we do, although it's entirely possible. We go from the 90s, shooting right on up, way on up. We did that back here when we topped out. We went from the 90s right here all the way up to 130 in just like 7 days. Look at that one. I mean, look, we went from right there, 89. We're not far below 89. Went from 89, 90 area right there, all the way up to 130. That was 11 bars, 18 calendar days. So 11 trading days, 18 calendar days, going from that was probably 10 days actually. Yeah, 10 days, 10 trading days, 2 weeks. Went from 87 all the way to 130. Be careful out there. Crazy stuff happens. All right, crazy stuff happens. So could it go ripping from 80 all the way up there to some of those targets I'm looking for? Absolutely. Absolutely. It can get sparky real quick. I think we're going to see some resistance at that 87 area, but if we break out above that, it could go quick. So be careful. Be careful not, counting out oil right now. Gold, just kind of grinding. Still got a series of lower highs. Still has me wondering if we're about to break out or if we're going to do another little flush here. Every time we kind of ground on this high, flush, ground on the high, we're going to flush. That is the question. I don't have an answer. Bitcoin finally kind of giving us the decision. Highly likely we're going back to the roadmap line. Highly likely. We're going to go visit this $60,000 area. That's what I would kind of bank on at this point. I think we're probably going to see at least 61, if not 60,000 down here on Bitcoin. Right there. Probably going to do it. Ethereum, probably going to go hit the 3,200 price right there. Probably going to do it. Tip in the hand. All right, don't be surprised if it flushes out over the weekend. And coming up to the dollar, pushing higher. This thing may pop, get the 106, possibly the 108.50. It's got to break through, got to push above those highs. We get above that today, probably game on for going higher, at least the 106, 107 area, if not on up here to the 108.50. I've been looking for months and months, a year now, practically. So what's actually moving today? SRPT, that is a biotech pharma, popping right up here. Could that lead to an extension to 187? Absolutely. 222, absolutely. Is it biotech pharma? Yes, absolutely. Be careful on that one. HubSpot. It was a popper, but turning into a dropper very quickly. Very, very quickly. Watch for the bigger flush on this one. It did not break above that 618. It held it very firmly right there. Right there. Came up, rejected, going lower. Same pattern all the time. Same pattern. That move, that move. We can find support right down in here. And if it doesn't, we may see a bigger flush down. So looking for that 550, possibly 525 area to hold right in there. And we get a bounce back up through the roadmap line. Then we could go higher. But right now, not indicative of higher prices. All right. Speaking of indicative, let's do this one. I like this one better. All trading involves a substantial risk of loss. Past performance not necessarily indicative of future results. That means basically I may never get something right again. Like my pattern may break, may work again. Although it'd be a bummer since it's been working for a long time. I've been testing it more and more. Back data all the way into the 1960s, and it just works. So this presentation intended to be informational, educational, fun, and entertaining. It is not a recommendation to buy or sell any financial instrument out there or anything from gurus. Don't buy stocks, options, bonds, forex, futures, cryptos, treasuries. Don't long them, don't short them, don't trade them. If you desire personal financial advice, hire and consult a financial advisor. It's not what I do. I'm not telling you what to do with your money. Just trying to help you not lose your money. All right. You're the one pushing the buttons. You're the one making decisions. PALL, nice gap up, still below the roadmap line, still in a downtrend. Be very careful on Palladium. And LABU, can it hold above this? It's really muckying up. I mean, look how attracted to that trend line it is. I mean, it's been like muddying it up, trying to get away, came right back, went below, came back, just kind of consolidating. If it can break above, we could see 140, possibly as high as like 223. Before we probably would consolidate again, maybe even up in here, but goodness, this thing doesn't look the super strongest. I mean, you go off, if this is the low, right, possibly a 5, but then there's no clear 3, so it could be working on rallying up here, flushing on down. I mean, but it did hold a measured bounce right there, so is it going higher? I don't know. This is a leveraged instrument. Leveraged stuff just does not always follow the patterns. All right. That's the thing about leverage. You never know if it's the one that's telling you the pattern or if it's just skewed because of all the other things happening in the market and the leverage that's applied. So that one stopped out finally, probably. Yeah, stopped out. I didn't get long into that one. GILD. It's funny, that one, usually that trade lasts 3 hours and it lasted for like 3 days. Well, GILD, Sledge, where are you getting out, buddy? Could lead to a bigger up. Could indeed. Gosh, that's been a long correction too. Got that flush down there. Resistance is going to be right there at 78. If we can get above that, could run on up to 94. Could be a beautiful 3-wave retrace. Look at that. Really nice. Could be a new leg higher on GILD. CTLT. Sitting here consolidating. Probably going to hit the roadmap line. SBIT. Short Bitcoin. While Bitcoin's going down, this one's going to pop. Right there. Watch out. SPR. Spirit Airlines. This is Spirit, the Spirit that builds Boeing planes, I guess, not Spirit Airlines. Spirit that builds the Boeing airplanes. Contractor for Boeing. Looks like, isn't that kind of funny? They bought them back here in September and they've been up while Boeing's been down. That's interesting. Probably going to rally up to 37, 38, 41. So decliners, MSTR, watch for the flush. If Bitcoin takes that trip down to 60,000, we may see this flush. Be careful. A lot of people are saying that this is a leveraged way to play Bitcoin. I'd be careful in that thought. Don't fall for the trap. All right. Could you get outsized returns? You might. Are there other ways to play? Absolutely. ASML. Watch for that one to come back down. It is likely to extend out to 1100, but watch out. We break back below this, probably come back to the roadmap line before we go higher. SMCI, also watch out. That one's hitting resistance pretty firmly and probably needs a bigger flush. Like the first move down, 1, 2, 3, slightly higher high, still with that resistance, still can flush right down here. 454, 534. That's a big range, but yeah, right in here. So if we get below the roadmap line there, watch for that one to flush bigger. I'm still not giving up on it. Now, I'm not short this one anymore. I touched the stove and burned my hand, and I'm not messing with it anymore. So, CI, Cigna, laying there on the roadmap line. If, in fact, we break higher, right there would be the resistance, 351, 371 upside target. UNH. Arthur, what was your first clue? I didn't say we're going higher anymore. In case you're new here, I've been saying we're about to top out for a while. So, and I went through all the resistance and support zones. First thing there. I'm gonna have to wrap up here in just a minute. So, do you have to go try to convince some people to do the gold trade? That's what I'm gonna go do. If you don't know about it, you can come follow me after this. UNH grinding down. That's more sideways, just not breaking out. Indicates, while this could be the low, this could be a move up, although it kind of did it in a three-way fashion. Like, for those of you that came to the in-person event, if this is the low, if this is our low, what did it do? 5 or 3? Looks like a 1, 2, 3 to me. And then this overlapped the 1. So that's not anything but a correction. It's corrective action. Either more sideways or this low is not going to be the low. So that's the two options that are being shown by the price action right now is either we're going more of this or we're going to make a low lower than this right here. Like the low is not going to be the low, and we're going to flush down one more time. It's kind of what's indicative right there on UNH price action. Let's see. Let's go check that one and pop. Sell. That was a 30-minute cha-ching right there. Cashed out. All right, back to coin on the daily. I kind of want to see this drop back to the roadmap line. Come on. Come on. And we may not go that deep, but that would be the ideal. But we may only go to here. Still, anything lower than right there makes this pattern, makes this corrective pattern complete and gives me an opportunity to get in to go longer. Let's go long. NVDX, 2x long on NVIDIA. Be careful. The first piece of roadmap line right there. This may flush. And I have a range chart that works. Look at this ridiculousness. If we go to a range chart, 100 range. I know you have no idea what 100 range is. And we turn this on. And well, this thing stopped out a bunch of times. Yeah. This thing was winning like 95% of the time. Then I quit trading it and it's lost a bunch. Anyway. That one's a crazy one. I probably don't have some setting right either. Anyway. Moving on. Be careful on that one. It's 2x leverage on NVIDIA. Leverage cuts both ways. USD. Semiconductors. All these semiconductor ETFs indicating we might be nearing the end of a move before we get a correction. Please be careful. Please, 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 please be careful. We could see a return back to the roadmap line sometime over here in July or August. MU may get a bigger flush. That basically hit the target also. Right there. NVDU, another leveraged NVIDIA. Watch for that to come back. ARM. We basically hit the target there. If I use the new fib with the 90% zone. Look at that. Look at that. Basically came right in there. If I actually clicked on the highs, it might help. Basically touched right to it. Right to it. Look at that beautiful touch. Right there. Watch out for the retrace at this point. Could be pretty wicked. Blast that up through. Got above this consolidation. Say we're going for a target. Basically hit it. Be careful. Can be game over at this point. Now, where's the D low? Right there. 5 or 3. 1, 2, 3 at this point. Be careful. FERG. Gotta keep an eye on my time here. FERG. Breaking down below the roadmap line. Watch for a bigger pullback. That low. That high. Support zone right in here at this point. NVDL. Right there. That's another leverage long on NVIDIA. Lots of those showing up today as NVIDIA pulls back. Connell, back to the roadmap line. Watch for that to flush on down, possibly down to here, 29. QCOM. Watch for that to flush back to the roadmap line. Although that one could extend a little higher. We did tag that 1272 area. Remember, these are areas right here. These are zones. Everybody can draw them on the chart. We tag the zone right there. Next one up could be 291, but I kind of predicted we may see a pullback back to retest the breakouts before we do that next run higher. If we're going to run higher, if we don't, we could come back to the roadmap line. NVIDIA itself, watch out, watch out, watch out. This can very quickly drop back to the roadmap line, if not something more deep and sinister. On, watch out for that to retrace back to the roadmap line. And BitX, this is leverage Bitcoin. If Bitcoin's going back to the roadmap line, this one's going to be down here somewhere. Be careful right there on leverage Bitcoin. Bias for the day. We might get a bigger, deeper correction if we bearish engulf the last few days. Watch out for the bigger, deeper flush. And I'm going to grab a link really quickly if you want to come over and see what I got to say about a gold pattern that members like Sledge have been saying is freaking rocking and rolling. And let me copy the link, just the link. I don't want the whole message. Copy that and Control C and throw it in the chat. Control V. Come join us. JeffreyTrader.com/rush right here in the chat. Link right there. I'll be live on Zoom here in just a minute. Got to go take a bathroom break and I'll be right back with you. So have a great day, everybody.